In this lesson, we are going to be writing an equation of a parabola in vertex form. So remember from the previous video that our vertex form equation is y equals a times the quantity x minus h squared plus k. So when we're going to be writing the equation, we're going to be moving backwards from graphing. So, given a graph of a parabola, the first thing we're going to do is find the vertex, find the coordinate points of the vertex. And if you remember, this is the point HK. The second thing we're going to do is plug the values of h and k into our formula of the vertex form. The third thing we're going to do then is to choose a second point, somewhere on the graph that you know exactly where it crosses, and substitute those values in for x and y into the formula. Then we're going to solve for a, and the last thing we'll do then is substitute the values for a, h, and k into the formula to give us our final answer. So, from our first example, notice we're just given a picture. And it tells us that our vertex is at the point -3, 9. Now remember, our vertex is our HK, so HK equals -3, 9. We're going to also pick a second point. And notice we have two other points placed for us here. One at, if you notice the graph is going by 2's, so this point on the graph is at -6, 0, and this point is at 0, 0. You can pick either of these points. I picked the point for my second point to be -6, 0. Just so we can see how things are plugging in and how we're solving things, because we're not always going to get a very nice point like 0, 0. So if you'll remember, after we find our HK, the first thing that we're going to do is plug our HK into our equation. So we're going to get y equals a times the quantity x. Notice we have -3 here and we have minus h. So we have minus a -3 quantity squared plus k, which is 9. So if we simplify that, we're going to get y equals a times x plus 3 squared plus 9. The second thing we're going to do is plug in the values of our second point into our x and y values of the equation. So our y equals 0, so we get 0 equals a times, if x equals -6 plus 3 squared plus 9. Simplifying, we get 0 equals a times -3 squared plus 9. So we get 0 equals a times 9 plus 9. You can also write this as 9a. So, what do we do next? We're going to solve for a for our next step. So what we'll do then is subtract 9 from both sides. So we get -9 equals 9a. Solving for a, we divide by 9 on both sides. And we find that our a value is equal to -1. So we know our a, and we know our h and k, and those are what we need to find our final equation in vertex form. So our equation is going to be y equals, a is -1, times x minus h, which we already determined was plus 3 squared plus 9. And that's our k value. So there's our equation in vertex form, and all we were given was a picture. Okay, so in our next example, First things first, we're going to find our HK value, which is our vertex. And if you notice in our picture, we're given the vertex of 2, 3. So that is the value of our HK coordinates. And I'm going to pick a second point. Now notice these ones aren't labeled very nicely, but you have to just look at the graph and see where it's crossing exactly. So we have 4 different points to pick from. The point that I chose was right here, which is the point 1, 4. Remember to be aware of your scale, because in the last graph we were given a graph by 2s, so you always have to pay attention to what's being graphed. So my second point is 1, 4. So from our steps, the first thing we do is plug in our HK values into our equation. So we get y equals a times x minus h, which is a positive 2, so it stays minus 2, squared, plus k, which we see is 3 from our vertex point. The next thing we're going to do is plug in the coordinates of our second point that we picked, which is 1 and 4. So we're going to plug 1 in for our x and 4 in for our y. So we're going to get 4 equals a times 1 minus 2 squared plus 3. So if we simplify, we're going to get 4 equals a times 1 minus 2 is negative 1 squared plus 3. Negative 1 times negative 1 we know is just a positive 1, and anything times 1 is itself, so we just get a plus 3. Solving for a, we subtract 3 from both sides, and we get that a equals 1. So now we have our a value, and we have our HK value. So we have everything we need to write our equation in vertex form. So we get y equals 1 times x minus 2 squared plus 3. And that is our equation written in vertex form from the picture. So as a quick review of what we've just done, we are given a picture of a graph. From the graph, we're going to find the vertex, and that is our point HK. We're going to plug the HK values into our formula of the vertex form, choose a second point, and substitute those values in for the x and y. From there, we're going to solve for a, and once we find a, we're going to substitute the values for a, h, and k back into the formula to find our equation in vertex form. And that will conclude the lesson.